Hi, I'm Rihanna, and I'm so glad that you're here at Composer Study Companion. I wanted to talk about what this book is as we get ready for the release date of the actual companion book. I want to start with the history of how I decided to create this resource for other homeschool parents. And the first time that I read the Thomas Tapper biographies of composers, I fell in love with the idea of students creating their own book. In the early 1900s, Thomas Tapper wrote a series of composer biographies where the children actually would cut and paste pictures as they learned about the composer. These books were all individual, and there were 12 of them that were published. They are not published in the original form any longer. They are public domain because I believe the copyright is 1910. They are public domain, so you can read them for free online, and all of the pictures are included in a lot of these online resources to read the biographies. But what I wanted to do was reprint the children biographies so that children nowadays can actually cut out the pictures and paste them in the books. And I brought the 4 volumes that are reprinted. To save some money, I have 3 composers in one book. So Thomas Tapper wrote an individual book for Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. Book 2 is Handel, Haydn, and Liszt. Book 3, we have Verdi, Schubert, and Grieg. And book 4 is Chopin, Schumann, and Wagner. Now, each of these composers originally would have had just an individual book. To save money, you get 3 in one of the volumes. And here is the idea behind the Thomas Tapper books. The children will read the story. I'm going to do Bach first. The children will read the story, and the parent can read them depending on how old your child is. And in this blank space right here, they can actually glue a picture. I have some video and pictures of my own kids doing one of the books, but here you see that there is a scissor mark. You'll cut out the pages of pictures, and the students will cut and paste and paste into the story. So this is Thomas Tapper. Now, this is just a biography resource. All of this is stories, and they'll talk sometimes about some of the compositions that the composers have written. But this is just for the actual history and appreciation of the composer's life. My experience, my background is teaching elementary music, and I loved working with children on actually listening to pieces and creating movement or being active in some way. We call it active listening. So a child would listen to a piece by a composer, and we would do something to learn about the form of the piece or learn the melody of the main theme, something to that effect where they're actually diving deeper into the music instead of just sitting and listening, which is also a great method to use, because that will train children to be observant by just sitting and listening. There's something called squilt, which is super quiet, uninterrupted listening time. So you can be super quiet and just listen. But I've found throughout the 10 years that I was in the classroom that actually doing something active made that listening experience a little bit more engaging. So this is what I decided to come up with. Now, we already have the 12 composers that Thomas Tapper wrote biographies for, but what music will you select from those 12 composers? Well, I've done that work for you because I have my favorites, and in really doing some research into some of the composers, finding interesting stories behind some of the pieces made it so I wanted to include that in one of our listening selections. So each composer, let's see if I can show you the index here. Each composer will have a very short synopsis of the composer's life that I wrote, just something that you might find similar on a music appreciation Wikipedia or something like that. Just made it something short and sweet that as a parent you can read very quickly before you introduce this composer to your child, to your students. And then we have 6 activities. So you'll have 6 musical selections from the composer, a little bit of a background sometimes of the piece, and an activity to do with that piece. This section here is a retelling or a reprinting of the story of the Thomas Tapper. So if your children have their own book, you don't need to get a book for yourself. You could actually read the biography to them from this section in the book, in the Composer Study Companion book. And then I also included a biography for older children. So I've had people ask, what age is this for? And disclaimer, I am an elementary teacher. That I have experienced K through 5. I did do some student teaching for band in middle school, but the elementary students are my forte, if I can use a musical pun. But I do want to include something for older children. So what I did is I scoured the internet looking at public domain works for older children. And I really fell in love with a lot of the stories by Charles David Isaacson. So this is Face to Face with Great Musicians. These biographies are a little bit longer and maybe a little bit more interesting for older children. So that's what you'll get in the Composer Study Companion. You'll have a short biography that I wrote, just a synopsis. You'll have 6 musical selections with activities. You'll have the reprinting of the Thomas Tapper biography, and you'll have a biography for older students to read and enjoy. The links for the playlists, when you get the book, either the paperback or the ebook, you'll see that there is a playlist link here for YouTube, and this will pull up the unlisted YouTube playlists that I've created for each of these 6 listening examples. And you will also, in the back of the book, have a glossary, because some of these musical terms that we want to teach our children might not be familiar to you. So in the back of the book, there is also a glossary of some of those musical terms that are used quite frequently. I would love to hear your feedback. If you have any questions about this resource, I'm really praying that this will be something useful to homeschool parents as you introduce your children to the great musicians. I will have single issues of these 12 that you can purchase if you don't want to buy the whole book. I'll have single issues on the website because my goal is also to do a similar activity for composers that were not written by Thomas Tapper. So I would like to kind of make my own Thomas Tapper inspired biography for Tchaikovsky and Aaron Copland, some that have not been published, with the 6 listening examples. So those will also eventually in the future be listed on the website, that you can have just single issues of some of those composers. But thank you so much for watching this video. And if you do have any questions, I would love to answer them. I'd love to have you join the Facebook group created. It's called Kind and Cultivated Music. In this group, I will have resources for Composer Study Companion, and also Sofa, which is my solfa singing solfege resource that I have for free. And in the future, my goal for 2020 is to create a Charlotte Mason recorder program on YouTube where children can learn to play the recorder using a solfege-based learning, where you are going to kind of use the same things that you'll learn in Solfa, only applying that to actually playing an instrument. So it'll definitely be a method using sound before sight, and something really fun. So I'm looking forward to the future. Please let me know if you have any recommendations or questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks so much for watching.